Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. This serious talk is getting to almost the end. There are two talks left, including today's talk. So I'm moving from the universal contemplation for advanced practitioners to specific contemplations for intermediate practitioners. So last time we introduced the three main methods, universal method, specific method about samatha, samapatti, and dhyana. These are the three main methods for all the Buddhist group to use. Although there are different applications, like what has mentioned in the chapter of Bodhisattva sound discernment, that you can apply these three methods in different ways, depends on the practitioner's capacity and their conditions. And today I'm going to talk about Bodhisattva cleansed of karmic hindrance and Bodhisattva universal enlightenment. Actually, these are two big topics here. So today I will just briefly touch the core content of these two topics. So Bodhisattva cleanse of all karmic obstructions follow the Bodhisattva discerned sound discernment, and ask, yeah, these three methods, that 25 methods are very good and sounds, very good. And practitioners spend a lot of time and effort on this practice, but the problem is, just like us, that why we cannot enter or even touch the door, the Chan door. We don't even know where the door is, let alone to open it and see what's inside. So what's the problem? That's for all, especially we have practitioners over 20 years, 30 years, or 50 years. Still, we are not there yet, not even close. What's the problem? That's the main question from this Bodhisattva. So the original question is like this. To the Buddha, if the intrinsic nature of this enlightened mind is pure, what causes it to be defiled, making sentient beings deluded, perplexed, and unable to enter it? Very simple question, but it's a very complicated issue for all of us. So here, Buddha say that all of the sentient beings, due to the attached love of self, all sentient beings fell into the illusory samsara, starting without a beginning. It's impossible to enter Bodhi without sever the hindrance of the four notions. With love, hatred in mind, and flattery, dishonesty in thought, the mind is always confused and puzzled, and therefore it is impossible to enter into the state of enlightenment. So this is the summary of Buddha's answer to this Bodhisattva. And there are three key points. The attached love of self, the hindrance of the four notions, and the love, hatred in mind, and flattery, dishonesty in thought. And basically, this topic is the content of Dharma Sutra. So we talk about the attached love in the previous chapter that the attached love will generate grasping desire, and all kinds of problems will come up. And right now, we will focus on the notion of the four notions, which is the notion of self, the notion of person, the notion of sentient beings, and the notion of lifespan. And these are called the four inverted views. We, all sentient beings, mistaken these four notions as the true essence of self. So with this attachment to the self, it's really impossible for us to enter into enlightenment. Okay, so it's very important to understand what these four notions are about. And Buddha continued that because we take the four inverted view as the true essence of self, then we will give rise to two mind states of love and hatred. We either love this or we hate this, according to if the situation is what we like or not, or if the condition preferred, we prefer this condition, then we love it. If it's not preferred by us, then we don't like it. And then that will lead to the illusory path of karma, because we will take different actions according to we love or we hate. And then after that, for the practitioners, for ordinary beings, we deluded perceive the turning of samsara. Okay, we talk about this in the 12 link dependent origination, that because of attached love and hatred, we generate grasping desire, and then commit more karma, store it in the ignorance, and so on and so forth to complete the link, the 12 links. And then we are trapped in this turning of samsara. For the renunciate, for high practitioners, like Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha, they will deludedly perceive the nirvana, because they want to liberate. And then so they renunciate the mundane world and try to enter into the nirvana so that they can avoid this worrisome mundane world. And these are not enlightened. Both of these two groups of practitioners cannot enter into the pure enlightenment. So Buddha says that it's really important that we know what the four notions of selves are, and then try to free of them in our practice. So what are the four inverted views? If you read the Diamond Sutra, you are very familiar with these four terms: the notion of self, the notion of person, the notion of sentient beings, and the notion of lifespan. And these are, in general, that a big topic in many sutras. Okay, so in the sutra, Buddha explained what's the notion of self. Okay, and it is which is attained by the minds of sentient beings. Even the Tathagata attained, which perfectly perceive the purity and nirvana, is also the notion of self. So in other words, for ordinary beings, we have a notion of self here, my body, with my body. My mind and my body is the self. So from the self center as a center, we interact with other people, with the environment, with the things, with the whole world. And this relationship between outside and the center self is what we call the notion of self. That's how we are aware of the existence of selves, because we interact with other objects. This is me. I interact with other objects. Okay, so Buddha said that, the awareness of me here is the notion of self. So does the Buddha nature that we attain. When we think we got enlightened, that Buddha nature is also what we are aware of. It's just like from the self-centeredness to no self, or to the Buddha nature. So in short, all the objects perceived by the mind are all the notion of self, including the attained Buddha nature. And our Shifu in the book in his commentary, Shifu explained, the notion exists through the interaction of other sentient beings, objects, and things. And self refers to whatever is perceived and experienced by the mind. It constitutes and is constituted by mental experiences, including not only the simple awareness of the body, but also the Buddha nature seen by the mind. Okay, so this is what we need to know. Whatever we think we attain, once there is a notion, and it's all self-attachment, the notion of self that we need to let go. How about the notion of person? If we practice higher, we finally realize that, okay, this body and mind is not me, but there still exists a different aspect of self that we call subjective self, or the person, or the attainer. So Buddha said that it is sentient being's mind that attains, no self, because we have already overcome the notion of self. And who knows the no self? The mind that knows the no self is also the self, a self-attachment. So Buddha continued, even the mind that attains the enlightenment and nirvana are also called the notion of person. So here you can see a person perceived no self, attainer attained no self. Both aspects. This process is another level of self-attachment. And Shifu said that even though this is another aspect of self, but this notion of person is the root of wisdom, because it is the wisdom that attains the Buddha nature. So Buddha nature is seen by wisdom, and self is experienced by the mind, and the person is what makes such an experience possible. Right? Now we go further. If we practice higher, continue, and we can detach the attachment of free of the notion of self and the notion of person. Buddha said that there is a notion of sentient beings. And it is beyond awakening, and it is what which it is awakened to in the minds of sentient beings. Whatever is out of the notion of self and person belongs to the notion of sentient beings, which still has the notion of awakening and attainment. Okay, so in other words, once we can let go of the subjectivity and objectivity, that's what we constantly hear about, the duality of subjectivity and objectivity. And still we exist, right? We still have the mind without subjectivity and objectivity. And for Mahayana school, that Bodhisattva, this is Bodhisattva's level, that they can let go of the duality. And yet they have a bodhicitta, the body mind, that want to save all sentient beings. So this kind of awareness of helping sentient beings is not self and not person. Because if there is a self and there is a person, then the scope of existence will only narrow to certain levels. But for Bodhisattva's levels, they still have the notion of sentient beings, but it's already very high level that that the attachment for them is that they need to help sentient beings. Okay, and so these are the three aspects of self-attachment, from the smallest self-centeredness to the person, the wisdom, the mind that without the self-centeredness, to you let go totally about the self and person, and to all. So usually when we practice, we will always say that, okay, concentrate our mind and unified our mind, unified our body and mind, and then unify, the inside and outside. And this is the process. And then until the notion of sentient beings, that then you perceive a so-called big self is a big self. And then so it's a totality of all the existence. And yet there is a very subtle notion of sentient beings that I need to save sentient beings. So that's Bodhisattva's practice. Through helping sentient beings, they need to let go of this Dharma, that sentient beings can be saved. Okay, that's the three notions. And the fourth notion is called the notion of lifespan. Buddha said that it is likened to the mind of sentient beings that illuminates the purity of the mind and realize what is awakened to. And it's also like an ice cube melting in the hot water. So you put an ice cube in the hot water, it's melting. And there is no other ice to be aware of its own melting. See, it's us, it's us observe the ice is melting. But when the ice itself in the hot water, it's only you aware of the melting. Okay, so remaining existence of a self and the awareness of a self are doing like this, a self and the awareness of self. This process needs time. Okay, you melt ice cube, needs time. You're aware of yourself, it needs time. You use your wisdom to savor your vexations needs time, even it's second or chana. Okay, very short period of time, still need time. So the time is our attachment. So that's why we cannot realize what's so-called the coexistence of the causes and conditions, because we need the concept of time to experience or to explain the phenomena of what seems to be, previous and later. So previous and later, there is a time in between. Okay, that's called the notion of lifespan. But for the roughly speaking, for sentient beings, we all want to live forever. That's our attachment to life as well. We don't want to die. We don't want to lose our life. So we're attached to our life, attached to our existence, that what we can perceive in this current life. So we are afraid of not existence after die. Okay, that's a very fundamental core attachment and the core fear of losing life. Okay, so that's why that's in a cross way that we all have the notion of lifespan. We all attach to the notion of lifespan. And on the subtler level, like Buddha says that all the phenomena, all the mind activity needs time, even aware of our own self, even awakened to Buddha nature needs time. This wisdom that aware of the Buddha nature needs time. So our Shifu conclude that the notion of lifespan refers to the ongoing function of wisdom through time. It is likened to the boiling water of wisdom. Boiling water of wisdom takes time to melt the ice cube of suffering. In our practice, it takes time for wisdom to dispel the vexation within self-nature. And so this notion of lifespan is also an attachment. So oftentimes, we in Chen or during the retreat when we practice, we always talk about, let go of the notion of time and space. Certain high practitioners can get to the level that without the sensation of time and space. And that's what it is. So a lifespan is about the time attachment. And the other notion, the self, person, and sentient beings are the attachment to the notion of space, because it built on the relationships of the self, even though this self is at different levels. So time and space are our fundamental attachment for existence that we need to let go. Buddha said that if we practice with any method, no matter what method we are practicing, with this four aspect of self-attachment, practice with these four notions, no matter how hard we practice, no matter how long we practice, we are not getting anywhere. We'll just like, like the stone, you put a stone in a cold water. You can sit there for a long, long time, and you're not going to get enlightened, because this stone is so hard. This is the self attachment. It's so hard. you sit there with the self-attachment. It's just like a stone. And it's you in the cold water, you have no wandering thought, everything is so peaceful. And it's just like that. Okay. So Buddha say, encourage us to be aware of this problem, that if sentient beings do not understand these 4 aspects of the self, even after cultivating the path diligently for many kalpas, it is still called practicing with attachment, and they will not be able to accomplish the fruition of sainthood, because they mistake the various aspects of the self for nirvana, and regard their experiences and awakenings as accomplishments. So, Shifu give a very, very good analogy. He described that the practice is just like, climbing a glass steep mountain like this, and the Buddhahood is on the top. The teachers, Buddha said, there is a Buddhahood, on the top. And the way from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain is a glass steep mountain. And on top of that is oil. The glass is there are oil on top of the glass. And you are climbing the mountain with bare hand and bare foot, bare feet and hands. You see, how can you do it? It's the glass is steep mountain is already very hard, and there are oil on top of it, and you are using your bare feet and bare hands. So even though you are a superpower, you climb it and then you slide down. You climb it and you slide down. You're not getting anywhere. So people give up. Okay. But Shifu say, you have to climb it. Climb it, don't give up. Climb and climb until you exhausted your body and mind, until the mountain disappear. Then you see it. So climbing the practice is like this process. The goal is not really get into the top. The goal is to exhaust your body and mind, exhaust any attachment of the self. And suddenly the mountain disappears because you wake up from the dream. And we are in the dream. We try to wake up in the dream. But how? We have to exhaust our body and mind that we are attached through the illusory mountain, through the illusory goal of so-called Buddhahood. And that's how we see the Buddha nature. So Shifu say that first, for practitioner, one should not claim to have attained enlightenment. If you tell your teacher, oh, I'm halfway to the mountain, you're wrong. And you even say that I'm on top of the mountain, you are also wrong. Because you are not wake up, the mountain still exists. You did not wake up. So don't claim that you have attained anything. Secondly, even though the mountain is illusory, the so-called Buddhahood is illusory, one should make enlightenment or nirvana the goal of practice. Otherwise, you don't want to climb. Without climbing, without practicing, you cannot wake up, right? So the next Bodhisattva, called universal enlightenment, follow the question. great. Their four notions. Their, craving and hatred that we need to let go. We need to practice hard. We need to wake up from the dream. But what kinds of people we need to follow? I'm ordinary people, I don't know. And who can guide me? Other people ask this question, which teacher to follow? Or can we follow 10 teachers? Can following 10 teachers make practice easier and faster? What kind of Dharma to rely on? So many Dharmas. No self, dependent origination, the consciousness and emptiness, all that, And third, of what faults in practice should we be rid of? How should we arouse the body mind to avoid falling in the erroneous view? Now the question is more and more close to ordinary people's problem, like us. You see, there are so many great teachers come to this world to help us, but they will leave us. They leave us. They left us. Like our teacher, Master Sen Yen, like Tin Aham. He passed away. So many masters come and go. Who we should follow? We need an experienced teacher to follow in order to avoid, there are like deviate from the path or make mistake or trap into some kind of erroneous view, or even turn around, go back to the wrong direction. And Buddha's answer. This is a really good answer, and also our master spent quite a passage on this topic. Finding a good teacher with right views in all aspects. Find a good teacher. How? How to evaluate that this teacher is good or not, or good enough for you or not. The criteria, the first is this teacher does not abide in appearances or the things, the phenomena. So if a teacher keep telling you that, I can get to the highest samadhi. I have such experience in meditation, and then I have a super knowledge to make things change, I can order something to happen and make something to disappear. Those kind of things, this is so obvious that is abiding in appearances or abiding in phenomena. So the good teacher, they won't, their own self, their self won't attach to this kind of body and mind and orderly phenomena, and let alone to guide their disciples and students to follow this phenomena. And secondly, does not fall into two vehicles. Doesn't mean that two vehicles are not good practitioners. They are actually high practitioners. The problem is they leave out sentient beings. They can get to the liberation states that never come back to the so-called mundane world. They leave out sentient beings in their practice. And even though they liberate from the body and mind, but they are not truly attain the complete enlightenment. and see the true nature, true self. And third is the teacher's mind is always pure and clean, even though performing in worrisome situations. You know, a lot of masters, high practitioners, they are actually very busy, like our master. He's so busy. He led retreat. He gave talks. He wrote books, and he led a sangha. You know, sangha has many monastic has all kinds of problems, and there are sangha affairs, and there are lay people's affairs. There are all kinds of problems, and the construction of the temple, all that we are busier actually than ordinary lay people. Is that good or bad? People always think that, you know, monastic monk, nuns, you shouldn't worry about those things. You know, you should go to the mountain or stay in a quiet place, live a simple life, just meditate. And this is wrong. And Buddha says that the really good teacher is, you know, like Buddha, go all over the place, handle all kinds of things, you know, in the mundane world, but his mind is always pure and clean and calm. That's what I observed our masters, you know. He is a great master, but he do very down-to-earth things, you know. He clean the table, he take care of his own everything. And he even need to help, you know, to pick up the rotten beans out of the bin bag. But every little things he did it with a pure and mindful mind. His mind is mindful, pure, and calm. He did not discriminate. This is small things, and I shouldn't do it. Just ask the lay people, disciple, volunteers, you should do this. And I'm the teacher, I'm the monastic, I should do, you know, higher things like reading the sutra or, you know, recite a mantra or something. Our master is not like that. But what I see is no matter what he did, he is very mindful, calm, pure, and clean. That's a good teacher. Unfortunately, he left us. The fourth, a good teacher, even though making mistakes, he praised the pure actions and does not lead sentient beings into misconduct and violating the precepts. Mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Shifu make wrong decision. Shifu sometimes wrongly think of people or say, you know, people make wrong judgments, but he will apologize. He recognizes his mistakes. He apologizes, but he won't find an excuse to cover up. But he still encouraged all his disciples, you know, we need to follow the pure actions. We need to follow the precepts. Okay, so that's a good teacher. If we just look at, you know, this master makes mistake. Oh, how come he didn't know? You know, he should know. He is not a good teacher because he has no super knowledge. He should read my mind. He should read people's mind. That person is lying to you. How can you not know? You know, that kind of things. Then we lose a great chance to follow a good teacher. Okay, so good teacher is really, really hard to encounter. And that's the 4 criteria that we can evaluate, and is a good teacher or not, and can we follow them? Okay, so Sifu said that if you see such kind of good teacher, Sutra says that if you meet such kind of good teacher, you should offer whatever you have to this teacher, even your life. And Shifu said that making offering to a good teacher is like feeding a grass to the cow. Your offering is like grass, It actually tasteless, okay? And the cow is the teacher. You feed the grass to the cow, but in return, the cow give you a nutritious milk to feed your wisdom body. You see, it's a good investment, right? Grass, you cannot eat it, tasteless, and you cannot digest it. Your money, your food, your whatever actually looks like grass. But the cow can give you milk that can nurture your body and mind. Okay. So if you are lucky to encounter any good teacher, you should do this. Okay, we should speed up. This Buddha says that the wondrous Dharma attained by a good teacher should be free from 4 kinds of faults. So the following topic regarding the 4 faults actually is for teacher level. Okay. So there are teachers that since their practice, we are all not Buddha, okay? So certain levels of teacher sometimes stuck on something. They need higher teacher to guide them, right? So we ordinarily find some teacher that's good enough for us, but those teachers need another higher teacher to guide them to help them overcome their problem. So these all faults belongs to the teacher level. So the first is called the fault of contrivance. Okay, so Buddha says that if someone says, I exert myself in all kinds of practice based on my original mind in order to seek complete enlightenment, this is a fault because the nature of complete enlightenment is not attained by contrivance. This is the first levels of teacher. It's also, we have the same problem all the time. Even our monastic, among the monastic, we have different opinions regarding, what is practice, what is not practice, what monastic life should be and what should not be. Okay. So if the teacher tell you, you should make donation, practice generosity, you should prostrate 100,000 times, you need to read the Lotus Sutras 1,000 times, you should uphold the mantra 108 times every day, this and that. You do that, then I guarantee you'll get enlightenment, after you fulfill this practice. This is sometimes the guidance. Of course, we need to do that. We need to do all that for our practice. but we attain the Buddhahood, or we get enlightenment, or see the Buddha nature, is not because the practice make that complete enlightenment manifest and exist. So this kind of guidance will misguided people, like, the enlightenment does not exist. You need to do something to make it exist. Okay, so that's one level of fault. And then the higher levels of teacher, they will fall into the fault of being naturalistic. It sounds like, if someone says, I neither wish to see birth and death, nor seek nirvana. There are no conceptions of samsara and nirvana as truly arising or perishing. I allowed everything to take a course with the various nature of Dharma in my quest for complete enlightenment. That means, actually, Sifu said this is higher level. So they detach to the trap for making something happen. But their mind are in the state of, their mind state is free of certain attachment. So they feel free. So they don't attach to anything. So their mindset is like, just let it be. Let it be. Naturally as is. Don't put effort. Any effort is attachment. Sounds right. But here, Buddha says that no, this is a fault of being naturalistic. Practices still need effort, okay? Otherwise, you're not getting where. To climb the glass mountain, you're just like, oh, up and down, let's lie down, and have a and have a sunshine, have tea, life is good, this is not there. And the third level, even higher level, is called the fault of stopping. So if someone says that, if I permanently stop the mind from having any thought, then I will attain the quiescence and the equality of the nature of Dharma. So you don't have any wandering thought. At this point, you enter into very high levels of samadhi. Mind is not moving. Then you enter into a state of, quiescence and equality. Very high level already. But Buddha says, sorry, that's another fault. Because your wisdom cannot arise if you stop your mind like this. And the highest level of fault is called the fault of annihilation. If someone says, if I permanently annihilate all vexation, then my body and mind, not to mention the illusory realms of sense faculties and dust, will ultimately be emptiness and utter nothingness. Everything will be in the state of eternal quiescence. So you are into the very, very high levels of samadhi, and then you decided that that's in the previous level, you only stop your mind. The fault of stopping. Right now, the annihilation is you stop the existence of vexation, the body, your mind, and the environment. Everything ceases to exist, and you think you are truly liberated. And these are the 4 faults from different levels of teachers that we need to aware of. Okay, Sifus make a summary of these 4 faults. First, the fault of contrivance is enlightenment does not exist in the beginning and can only be made to appear through practice. The second level, the fault of being naturalistic. It's what appears to be energetic process is really endless wandering. It's like, you know, you're not getting anywhere because you don't know where and you just let it be. That will become a problem. The third level is the fault of stopping, and the mind stayed in a death-like dead end. The stage of the unmoving mind. You know, we heard about it. The mind is not moving, you know, the unmoving mind. But this is called the great death. And if you don't know how to overcome it, it becomes a dead end. Okay. The fourth level is the fault of annihilation. That means you enter into the state that the mind no longer exists. Senses no longer functioned. Vexation and wisdom no longer exist. Everything ceased to exist. Some people will think that, oh, they enter into nirvana, but it's not. Okay, so these are the 4 faults from the teachers that we need to aware of. So here, so we know that we are intrinsic. The first level, you overcome the first level, you know that, okay, we are intrinsically has enlightenment with us. So you think that we don't pursue enlightenment, you let things as is, and that will become a problem. And if you practice very hard to the unmoving mind level, but you don't know how to, you know, let the wisdom manifest, then this samadhi, this unmoving mind become a death-like dead end. So that a lot of us trap into these 3 levels of problem. And the 4th level is not ordinary people can get into. So it's like all kinds of trap on the path of our practice. So what should we do? You know, Buddha says, Buddha's suggestion, I make a summary here. Even though there are all kinds of problems, even from teachers. First, the attitude toward good teachers. No arrogance and pride, no hatred and resentment. What does it mean? When you luckily encounter a good teacher, when the teacher praises you, don't generate arrogance or pride. You think, you know, I'm a good disciple. My attainment is higher than the other disciple. You know, you know, my teacher liked me more. You know, Sangha, including the monastic and lay people, things will happen. This phenomena happens that people will try to get attention from the teacher and try to judge that the teacher liked me or not through the praise of the teacher. And that's Buddha saying, don't do that. And how about the hatred and resentment? And one day, the teacher is too busy. He has no time to be with you all the time. And you get angry. And you think that the teacher, you know, ignore me, or, you know, he doesn't like me, or did I do something wrong? You know, did I is that I did not make enough, offer enough money or food? You know, is that because Shifu like him because he's rich? Because I'm poor? You know, that kind of mentality will arise. Or sometimes because the master tried to use expedient ways to help you to overcome the difficulty. Sometimes the teacher will give you the hardship. And you hate him. You think this is not a good teacher. How can he do that? You know, how can he curse me? How can he spam me, you know, in the retreat center? You know, these are not a good attitude to a good teacher. Okay, so in our daily life, no arrogance and pride, no hatred and resentment with your teachers, no matter what happened. Second, the attitude towards practice, free from the four faults that I just share, and also keep the precepts. Keeping the precept is very important because violating the precepts will make your minds up and down and here and there, you know, because first, you know, you violate the precept means good. You know, you make mistakes, and that mistakes will, your mind will not settle after you know that you make mistakes. You want to compromise, you want to apologize. That kind of thoughts will come again. So the best way is don't violate the precepts, keep yourself peace and calm, and keep others peace and calm. The third one is uproot the seeds of love and hatred. There are so many seeds that we planted in our mind based on love and hatred. And Buddha's suggestion is that in our daily life, if there are some people that you really hate, or some people really mistreat you, set you up, you know, really bad people, and we should treat these people as our own parents without dual mind. So we love our parents, we hate our enemy. That's called dual mind. Actually, we are triple mind, quadruple minds. We have multiple minds to different people. Here, Buddha says that equal mind to everyone. That's a way to uproot the seeds of love and hatred. And the last one is initiate Bodhi mind. How to do that? Buddha say, we can say that every day. I will lead all sentient beings into ultimate complete enlightenment and not fall into erroneous views. Okay, making this statement sounds simple, but you have to do all that in all the things that are mentioned in this chapter. Okay, avoid the four faults, and even the notion of the four notions, and you know, helping people with equal minds. And that's Buddha's suggestion for this chapter. Okay, time is up. Next time I will talk about the last part, the Bodhisattva complete enlightenment. Okay, the key role here. And Buddha teach us how to practice in retreat or at home. That's called fundamental practices. And the last Bodhisattva, foremost in virtue and goodness, will conclude this whole sutra. Thank you for your attention.
Great. Thank you so much, Chang Hwa Fashi, for your very enlightening talk. So we would like to dedicate the merit of attending Dharma talks to all sentient beings, and may all be free from suffering and attain appreciative joy and Bodhi mind. In concluding today's talk, let's join our palms and bow to our teacher. Sorry.
There is a question.
Sure.
Ching ching.
Hi, Chang Hwa Fashi. How are you?
Hi, good.
Thank you for another good talk. The last slide that you showed has the 4 Buddha's suggestion, and there are very, of course, Buddha's suggestion is the ultimate suggestion, but it's really difficult to do. I think, especially the 3rd one. But I especially was enlightened by your comment about we have quadruple mind and all that. So I guess we have to move from the quadruple mind then gradually to the without dual mind, right? Because there's no way you can do it right away. So just want to verify that. So that's the first one I have comment. The second one is the number one. Number one, certainly that we have all ultimate respect with the teachers, but in situation that if the teacher is being abusive, this is rarely, but there are, then how does one kind of know that, and how does one approach that?
You see, when Buddha talk about the good teachers, that even though they make mistake, they will not ask the disciples to violate precepts, or so if the so-called abusive, we have to see if that's during the retreat or during the practice. Sometimes the teacher will put you in the extreme, like Japanese extreme cold in the mountain, the Soto Zen that Sifu mentioned in the book. They are in extreme cold, or not enough food, not enough sleep. That's in the intensive retreat, then that's another story. But I will guess that your question maybe regard like there are some religious scandal, that there are abusive things happen. Is that what you are asking? Okay, so if that's what happened, that then you are aware of this, the so-called like for example sexual harassment, or any kinds of behaviors that actually violate the precepts, then precepts is the teacher. That's Buddha say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good advice. Yes, that's good. That's a very good guidance. Thank you. Thank you.
There's another one who raised the hand.
Michelle.
Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you, Fashi. It's a very deep thoughts, a lot of good concept. I got a question. You mentioned about the 4 notion, right? Is person, is start on the self, person, sentient being, and the lifespan. And this slide you mentioned, actually, person is the one, the subject. Yeah, this is the one. In my thought, I saw self is the subject. Other people is the object. Yeah, so how do I twist it around?
Okay, here. The self, the first level of notion, the self, then the self has the mind and the body, right? And usually we will think that I perceive this body. My mind is the master. Then that's the first level of notion of self, is I think my mind, my body. And then if you let go of the objectivity, so objectivity and subjectivity are relative. So right now your relative of subjectivity and objectivity is your body and your mind. Body and mind, right? And then so now you realize that the notion of self, the first is very difficult, is that you realize the no self. So at this point, then you gradually go to the level of that you are aware of this body and mind is not you. So both body and the so-called mind, we talk about that. this mind is the the grasping of this 6 organ with the 6 objects and generate the 6 consciousness. We call it the mind, but it's not mind. Okay, so right now your mind is at a higher level that you're aware of this, the so-called 4 elements of body and the 6 objects consciousness are not you. So you let go of this self, and there is awareness that be aware of this. Then that awareness is the person, because you are not you're not recognize that mind aware of the body and mind is you. So we put another name called person.
Oh,
that become the subjectivity, and our body and mind become the objectivity.
so the person is not the person, the worldly person talking about.
It's about like the awareness that is not you.
Oh, the awareness is not you. Wow, that's a big concept.
Yeah, like a man or a human or existing life, something. But you're still alive, right? So this is the awareness that aware of this body and mind is not you, but still just like even though you attain the state of emptiness, but who is knowing the emptiness? There is still awareness, very subtle awareness. That is called a person.
Oh, they use the person, they label person is another.
Well, that's the translation. I saw Tina Han's translation is man, human, 人相.
人相.
It's like you are still a well-being, you know, the human being. You are still a sentient, a well-being.
Kind of being, but
being, right?
Yeah,
and then the higher level is sentient beings, all existence are included. That kind of awareness is even bigger. It breaks the bondage of the self and person. It's unify everything, but you still exist. That we call it sentient beings.
Very profound, a very nice concept and thought. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you, Fashi, for patiently answering the questions. So in concluding today's talk, please join our palms and bow to our teacher, Venerable Chang Hwa Fashi.
Thank you very much. As my last talk is, I think 2 weeks after that, I will conclude this sutra, and please join the talk again. Thank you. Have a nice day.